Hey everybody.
Hey,
Hello.
Rob, and everyone else.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
How goes it?
Welcome.
Goes.
Yeah, I think that's enough. That's enough of an intro, right? No, it's not.
Still
Welcome to the
starving
Big
to
Byte.
get the show on the road.
This week we're going to be talking about NFTs, which you may have heard a lot about in the news. You may not understand it, and neither do we, but we're going to do our best to convey some information to you so that you can figure it out and then let us know what it is.
That's right.
That's it. That's our
That's
goal
what we're
here.
doing. So
So,
luckily for everyone,
let's get
we
started.
Googled for the past
Jake,
week to do this.
you'll be going first. I'm just going to size your screen. Glorious. Glorious. Off to you, sir.
Good to go. So I think just basically this sums it all up right here. I don't think we really need to go into much depth. Hopefully, just looking at this, you understand everything about NFTs. So just wanted to start off with that. This was a hilarious YouTube sketch that I really enjoyed. And it actually was somewhat informational, in my opinion. But if you're not into learning from SNL sketches, I did find this dribble article about what the heck is an NFT and what does it mean for digital artists. And I think, for us specifically, that's almost more important that we understand what does it mean for the things that we can create instead of just like people are talking about them. What do they mean? So NFT actually stands for non-fungible token. The word fungible that we use in daily life. But essentially, what that means is if something is fungible, it can be exchanged for different items and they'll have the same value. So, their example here is like a $5 bill is always going to be worth $5, whether you have yours or someone else's, and you can exchange them and they retain their value of being worth $5. Non fungible, something like the Mona Lisa, there are copies of it around, but those are not worth the same value as the original one, which is extremely valuable. So that's sort of the difference between fungible and non-fungible. So when you look at what that means for digital art, you can create a piece of art and mint it, as they call it, and sell it as an NFT. And that piece of art and who created it and who owns it is stored on the blockchain, which is sort of this public ledger of transactions. So people will always be able to know who owns it, who created it, and are you the owner of that original? So certainly there are other digital files that could be that same file that was created, but that is not the one that is worth that amount of value. And the value of these things, as most art, is sort of arbitrary. It's set based on demand and based on what the perceived demand is. So you can create anything, you can pay to mint it as an NFT, and you try to market it and get it sold, and the inherent value is what people are willing to pay for it, essentially. You do have to do it using cryptocurrency, so Ethereum is what you'll have to have a digital wallet for, and that's how it's purchased. And this sort of goes into there are different marketplaces that you can use. Here's an example of some of the different ones, and even just by the name of them, right? Rareable, super rare. It really plays into this idea of wanting to collect things and wanting to own this unique thing that you can say, like, I'm the one that has this, even though at the end of the day, it's just potentially a piece of digital artwork. It's that perceived value of being the one that owns that thing. And something really important for digital artists is that you can decide what cut of every future sale of that piece is worth to you, and you can get that back. So you don't just sell it once and then if it's resold, you don't get anything. You can get a piece of future sales as well, which is really nice for artists. This is an interesting technology that we'll see where it goes, but that's sort of the rundown of what an NFT is and how it can be used. And I think some of the other guys have some fun examples, hopefully, of what that could look like.
Indeed. Thanks, man. That's a really, really good breakdown of what they are. And now I feel a little bit more like I understand them, which is good. But yes, NFTs can be basically any sort of digital file. So it could be artwork, it could be music, it could be something else. This is called Foundation. This is an actual auction house for
Did I kick you off?
NFTs. What's that, Jeff?
Did I kick you off? I think. Were you sharing?
No.
Oh.
I'm sharing, but not through Skype. Oh, actually, you know what? I can see your shares behind
I
mine.
think now I am.
No, you're not. You're good. You're fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is an auction house for NFTs. This is one that just sold actually within like the last minute for 3.5 Ethereum, which is $8,435.42. So Sam Deck now owns this piece of artwork for that much, which is ludicrous. But there's like tons of stuff. I mean, you've got ones that are actual like drawings. You've got this, which is going to give me nightmare fuel. And to my friends here on the stream who can't see it, be thankful because it's terrifying. But I mean, they're really cool, like just quick animations. I have several friends who have been doing some where they just kind of have like a song or something that they've been working on, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. It's only about like 10 seconds long, so I'm going to throw it up as an NFT. But you can see like with each of these, the bids are sometimes a little bit lower, like underneath 1 Ethereum. This one is 0.1. But of course, in 37 minutes, that could skyrocket. You never know. It's absolutely crazy. So tons and tons of really, really cool artwork. And this is also just fun to scroll through and see like the cool art that people are making. But it's also really cool to see how much they go for. So for instance, wow, this one is going for 200 Ethereum. That's $482,000, folks.
Wow.
For this image of Edward Snowden within a whole bunch of text. Okay. That's a lot. But, okay, so that's all the cool stuff. But now you know how I like to ruin your days a little bit. So I wanted to also talk about the climate controversy. So as Jake had mentioned, this is all based on Ethereum, which is a cryptocurrency, which you've all kind of heard some things about with Bitcoin and everything, and Dogecoin and whatever else. So the problem with these, though, of course, is the fact that when people are mining them, they tend to use a lot of energy, a lot of power. So as Jeff will attest, and anybody else who happens to be a gamer, over the last couple of years, it's become increasingly hard to get a good graphics card for your computer because they get snatched up almost immediately by people who are mining cryptocurrency. So people have like these huge farms where they basically just are constantly running all this compute power, and that actually causes emissions and it causes problems with it. So this is a really cool, just a really cool article that talks about the problems with mining cryptocurrency and the possibility that with the increase of NFTs and their popularity, more people are going to be mining, more people are going to be mining more than they used to, and what does this mean essentially for the planet? This does talk about how Ethereum and Bitcoin and whatnot are based on a thing called proof of work. So proof of work is basically what is done, that's the whole mining process. So what happens is that it basically has challenging puzzles, and you in the community use your computers to solve these puzzles, and then you get the cryptocurrency in return. But there is another version, another thing called proof of, what is it? I actually forgot what it was because I hadn't heard about it until today, honestly. Proof of something else that they are hoping to, proof of stake is what it's called. And this is something that they're hoping to like transfer over to because it actually uses less power. It causes less energy waste, and it's hopefully gonna be a way to like keep this healthy, I suppose, without killing our planet. I just made myself sad. I apologize.
I mean, it is pretty excessive, though.
It is.
Like, I've read things that cryptocurrency, just Bitcoin, uses more electricity than Argentina.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't happen.
Which, that blows my mind. That's out of control.
They say it accounts for 1% of global energy usage. Just Bitcoin. It's insane.
Absolutely insane. Yeah, and apparently it also, when selling Ethereum or trading Ethereum, because of the fact that it's like it has to do some extra stuff, I guess, for keeping third parties out of it to actually verify the amount, that also causes more energy usage and more emissions, which is terrifying. But weird. It's a cool read. I'll give it to you guys if you want to ruin your days a little bit more. But
I'd love to.
awesome.
Can always count on you for this sort of stuff, Rob.
That's what I'm here for, you guys. But somebody else should bring this back up. I'm sorry. We need somebody else.
It's fine, dude. Let's talk a bit more about how we can create more NFTs for brands, even. Let's just
I
take a look
already
at
feel
what-
happier just looking at this.
Hey, that's my goal. So Taco Bell, right? Obviously, huge brand, pretty young audience, very engaged, very digitally savvy, always pushing the envelope in terms of technology. Well, on Rarible, as Rob pointed out, here are some of their minted NFTs, right? When I look at it first pass, like nothing special, even like maybe a little ragged, like yeah, it's interesting, but none of these are things that we couldn't produce for our clients. Now the question really is, do we have clients that would want to produce NFTs? It's probably it's almost foreign to our group. I could only imagine to like account trying to sell this as a project, as an idea to a client who knows nothing about it. But the people who are buying these are super engaged, users, and it might be worth for some of our clients tapping into this kind of thing. Like I said, the lift isn't all that big. It would just bring some publicity and like a younger focus to some of our clients. Anyways, this is just like, it's some stuff that Taco Bell made, like 2 Ethereum, which is what, like almost $3,000 or something like that, like just for this ever crunching tacos GIF. It's insane. It really is. I think it's more about novelty than it is investing or functionality. Like obviously there's no functionality to owning this GIF. It's just, and I don't even think there's a whole lot of investing potential, but that's just me.
I don't know. That's a great gift, though. I don't know.
It's cool. Yeah.
I have a question about it. So I saw this example too, and I noticed that they have like multiple versions of the same GIF available as an NFT. Is that like almost like editions of a painting? Like you can sell multiples of the same thing?
Yeah, so it depends on how many they've minted, and there's a cost to minting these things. So, well, let's go to like Kings of Leon, right? They did an album release as an NFT, and they made like 200 of these albums, and they said, after these 200 albums are gone, we only minted 200 of them, so like the one-to-one album it's not real. After, you can still download the music and listen to it, but you're not an owner of this album. There's only 200 of them, so yeah, it is a lot like 1 of 200 on a poster or a painting or something, if you've made multiple prints of them. But then copies of that print aren't the original. So it's, especially with digital assets, it gets very muddy very quick. But as Jake pointed out earlier, there's a very public ledger that's distributed amongst all users of Ethereum, I would say, and just the publicity and like the knowledge of who owns it, who created it, when it was purchased and stuff like that is very public and very tamper proof. tamper evident. So
Yeah, it's not that the only people who can listen to this album are the 200 that bought it, but those are the only ones who can say that they own it technically. So it's more about if you care about those sort of things than actually consuming the media in the case of audio or digital art.
yeah, and again, I don't know much about the investment side of it. Like if this currency will increase in value, decrease in value, and if people are maybe purchasing because of a financial reason, it's hard to say.
I think there's a lot of that.
I think so too. And then another example of celebrity using NFT, right? Grimes created interesting, 3D visualized animations, and they're pretty cool. I'm assuming this is like within her brand. I don't know much about the artist, but yeah, 300 editions, each sold for $7,500. So, and then she did a couple versions of this. It's pretty insane. There's obviously a ton of hype around it, and if nothing else, it's publicity for a brand, right? If we were to create a few in a particular campaign, maybe even if they don't, auction successfully, they're still out there and still publicity.
It's
Just a thought.
absolutely nuts.
Save the planet.
Dude, thank you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's it almost feels like people wanting to join like a special club or something, or like if you happen to have, like back in the day, if you got like the whatever bootleg live recording of a certain band or something like that, and you're just like, oh dude, I've got this, like not many people have this. It's cool, but it is weird because it's like not, I don't know, maybe it's just the 80s kid in me, but it's not physical, it's not a material thing.
Yeah, I was struggling with that too. It is a flex.
It's super flat. Yeah,
No doubt
it's
about
all
that.
about clout, I suppose, which that's not for me. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, I had a conversation about that because I was like, it's hard to think of, like you think of an original painting, like you can't have a copy of that that's exactly the same, but with a digital image, a copy of that is going to be the same. So like, but at the same time, like, why shouldn't digital assets be able to have this kind of like be uniquely minted and have that kind of I don't know, thing associated with them? But because like I was thinking, like if you do collect like vinyl records or something,
Mm-hmm.
they may be important to you personally, just as an NFT may be important to you. So like it is that perceived value aspect that's kind of just like hard to wrap your head around.
No, that's I think that's a really good way to put it. I like that.
I mean, that's how I see the celebrity NFT releases. Is like people are obviously fanatics about this celebrity, and I think it is more for them, right, to be able to say like, I own a limited release of blah blah blah. Like there's something to be said for that.
Heck yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right, I think I'm up, right?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, so I have just a couple other examples of how brands are currently using NFTs. Obviously, they're relatively new, especially for brands to be using. But some of the benefits, like some of these initial benefits, are really and kind of things that we've touched on already. But it's interesting. Like people are clearly interested in this right now. It'll be interesting to see how that interest continues over time. But right now, it's definitely a trend that some brands are jumping on. and because it's new, it's kind of bringing about unique experiences for brands and their customers. So as someone mentioned, I think Jeff, you mentioned with Taco Bell, it's connecting more so to their younger audience, who, as we kind of all know, is into more of experiential things. And then it also, for some brands, it kind of just gives them more of a reputation for being digitally savvy. So that's just another one of the benefits. But, Pringles is another one that has one out. This one, I guess 50 cans of it exist, and they first put it on sale for the price of an actual can of Pringles, which I thought was kind of fun. But then something I also liked about this one in particular was that 10% of any profit that's made will go to the artist. So I thought it was kind of interesting that with a lot of the brand examples that I saw with NFTs, there's a portion of the profit, at least a portion, going to something else. So, whether it's giving back to the artist who created it, or in Taco Bell's case, I know that they are using the money to fund scholarships through their foundation. So I thought that was another interesting aspect to it, to make it kind of seem like, brands aren't just jumping on the trend for their own personal gain, although there obviously is personal gain that comes along with it. Another example that I saw was Charmin, which was very charming, but they're calling it NFTP, if you understand what they did there.
That they do.
Yeah, so you can see down here, proceeds donated to Direct Relief, which is a nonprofit. So I think 100% of the funds are going to that. So again, another example of how it's kind of, they're kind of giving in a way whatever they get back. But they have these unique pieces of art using, a roll of toilet paper in it to connect it back to their brand. But this one I thought was interesting because the art itself isn't quite as, on the trend that you see with a lot of like the crypto art and glitchy kind of 3D stuff. So I thought it was interesting how they kind of branded it in their own way and put their product in it too. But I think the pun aspect of it was fun. And I think, one of these sold for, or I don't know if it sold for, but when I checked, the bidding was like over $4,000, which is impressive. You wouldn't really think of Charmin as a digitally savvy company. That's not the first thing that comes to mind. So the fact that they're successfully selling NFTs is kind of cool. And you can see some other examples here. They do have a few that kind of get into more of some things that you would typically see with like the glitch style art and those iconic bears. Who doesn't love those bears?
It's crazy.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I want to meet the individual who bought that for 4,000. When I think of Charmin, I kind of think of brands that we work for, like maybe don't have the most fanatical gung-ho fan base, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're trying to make, like I don't know, an Instant Pot NFT or something. Like I don't know. Well, there are definitely Instant Pot lovers.
Oh, like, dude, they call the potheads. They call themselves potheads.
Sick.
They're tight. So I mean, like that one would be a good one. And to be fair, I mean, like when I don't use Charmin, I have a bad day. So
yeah, less is more.
Thanks for that plug, Jeff.
No problem. It's just the jingle's in my head.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Phil.
These are interesting examples. And like you said, like the Charmin one is definitely not like a 3D rendered, like augmented reality, like some crazy technology. It's like it's a pretty standard ad looking thing. It's just unique.
Yeah.
And sells for $4,000.
So, yeah. You guys think any of our clients would like to get down on this? Are any of you guys going to actually go out and make some cool art yourselves and sell it for tons and tons of money? Or do you think it's a fad? Is it a passing fad like Pogs? Or will it be around forever like
I think
baseball
Jeff
cards?
had a good point about the investments. Like,
Yeah.
look at Grimes. She's married to Elon Musk, so
Yeah.
there are people who have like heavy investment, probably earlier in Ethereum, who now are therefore invested in NFTs taking off, like because that only helps them. And I know with Bitcoin in the past, like people, bigger companies have considered like, is this a viable investment or is it too risky? And I think we're going to see a lot of like the interplay of that as well, and the continuation of like corporations trying to influence consumer behavior under the guise of it being like a cool thing, but also like there may be some underlying incentives for them as well, as there always are.
Totally. That's awesome. We will be
On
keeping up
that
with
note.
this. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
That's right. Enjoy your weekends.
See you next week.
Bye.